Back to My Garden, Episode 10.
Welcome to Back to My Garden. Discover your passion for gardening. Here's Dave Ledoux.
Attention garden lovers. Do you want to save time, save money, and have your most amazing garden ever? Receive free tips, strategies, and gardening techniques from expert gardeners from around the world. Join the VIP club for free today at www.backtomygarden.com/VIP. This episode of Back to My Garden brought to you by Coffee Royalty. Is it really possible to lose 5, 10, even 20 pounds or more just by switching your coffee or tea? Find out more at www.coffeeroyalty.com. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world when you listen to this. And the fact that you can hear my voice, I remembered to hit record this time. I'm Dave Ledoux, and welcome to another fun edition of Back to My Garden. Today, if you're driving or jogging and listening with your earbuds, you're going to want to take notes because we are very excited to have somebody from my part of the world in a relatively similar climate. She has a background in horticulture. She's a horticulturalist. She's a garden writer. She used to write the condo garden column in the Toronto Star back when newspapers were a thing. Now you can find her on the internet in a big way. She has a background in martial arts. We may explore that today. She's a nature lover, more than 30 years of experience in gardening. And she's also the host of #GroundChat on Twitter every Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. We're definitely going to talk about that today. Please welcome to the show, Cristina da Silva. Welcome, Cristina.
Thank you, Dave. It's nice to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Now, people are listening in cyberspace all over the world, but you're actually about 2.5 hours from me in the big city of Toronto, Canada. I want to get to know you a little bit, and I know my listeners want to hear your story. Can you just take a minute and share with us a little bit about your background?
Okay. I discovered gardening about 7 years old. I used to live in Blantyre, Malawi in Africa, and we had about half an acre all in gardens. So I grew up around gardens. It's always been a constant with me. One of the biggest challenges when I was growing up was, as a student, is that I didn't have the land. And because I grew up with land, I just assumed that you had to have land if you wanted to garden. Fortunately, I discovered that container gardening just in the nick of time. And since then, I've been container gardening and also in-ground gardening, as I call it. So that was one of the biggest aha moments when I realized it doesn't matter where you live. If you want to garden, you'll find a way.
Wow. So you started off in Africa, and now you're in the big city of Toronto.
Actually, I live in Brampton, so it's more suburban than city living.
Lovely. When you said container gardenings, a big cheer went up from our listeners because we have a lot of container gardeners. Talk to me a little bit about your struggles. I know you've been gardening a very long time. Can you remember what it was like when you started gardening as an adult? That transition from, working and then I'm going to grow something.
Well, it was never a struggle. To me, it was, first of all, once I discovered the container gardening, I just started doing it. I think I have a green thumb. Not only does my parents garden, my grandparents garden, and their parents before them garden. So it seems to be something that sort of innate. So I was a little surprised when people struggle with it, and I know they do because I've met them. But I think when it comes right down to it, it depends on the kind of soil you use. Even in pots, it's really important to pick the right potting soil. And you can't cut corners there. If you're going to spend any money, make sure that you spend it on good soil. It seems really unsexy, but it makes all the difference in the world between a skinny tomato standing in the windowsill and having a nice lush one that's growing really well. Oh, yes, and the size of containers. It always surprises me that people think that they can grow a lovely big thing in an 8-inch pot. And I fell into this as well. I started in smaller containers, and then discovered bigger containers do so much better.
I told you you'd get some pearls of wisdom today, folks. I think a lot of people struggle with the size of their containers. It's got to be a human thing. I wanted you to talk more about soil. You know, when we have a saying that you are what you eat. Does the same apply to plants?
Absolutely. There is a big movement nowadays about growing nutrient-dense vegetables, and a lot of it has to do with adding minerals back into your soil, because some soils tend to be mineral deficient. In my mind, it's not just that. If you're growing nutrients, it is important that the soil is good, but it's not just about the minerals. You need the minerals, and you need plenty of organic matter in the soil as well, whether it be a potting soil or in-ground soil. Of course, potting soil is almost all organic matter, so you don't have to worry about that. And the other thing that I always emphasize, especially if it's something that you're going to eat, is using organic fertilizers, because that way you're feeding the soil, which then feeds your plants, which then feeds you. So the commonly used adage is healthy soils equals healthy plants, which equals healthy people.
Brilliant. I know you write a lot about this on your blog. Let me drop your blog here and make sure you write this down if you're not near a computer, everybody. It's www.therealgardener.com, TheRealGardener. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. Cristina, you're talking about soil. Do you see new people trying to cut corners when they're gardening? And is that one of the places that they make the mistake of cutting corners?
Yes, you're right. Out of sight, out of mind. But it is all good gardens, and I mean this. They start with good soil. You can't cut corners when it comes to the soil. If you and I've seen many people go out and just buy soil in the bags, the $2.99 ones, and you're not guaranteed what you have in those bags, because there are no regulations for those. So they can put anything and they can get away with it. So people just tend to buy it. It looks dark. Yes, that's soil, but they'll find that a lot of times that things won't grow in it. A good way of finding out if that soil works or not is take some of it, small amounts of it, and grow some tomatoes or some marigolds on it. Seeds. Start it from seed. If it germinates and grows to the second leaf, then you know at least that it can germinate and grow. It can germinate, and then you grow it for a little while longer, about two weeks longer after that. Then you know not only can it germinate in it, but it can also grow in that soil. A lot of the soil that you'll find may not do that, and it depends also what kind of woody material they put in it. Some of that woody material is phytotoxic. That means that it's harmful to plants. Plants won't be able to grow well in it. And I don't think a lot of people realized it. I remember feeling quite shocked to find out that there aren't any regulations on topsoil. There are regulations on potting soil because about a decade ago there was a big kerfuffle about I think it was some contaminants in potting soil, and ever since, and then legislation came in, and then now there is regulations and legislation around potting soil, but not topsoil.
Wow. I mean, so many rookie gardeners, you just head down to the big box store, you pick up a couple of bags for $2 or $3. And it's no wonder there's weird weeds that don't grow from around here. And I'm speaking from experience, of course. You're almost saying take it for a test drive, like audition it, make it qualify itself before you put it to work by growing some test pots.
Yeah, I know that's extra work that, when you're a beginner, just seems like it's another obstacle. So I would say if you're starting off, the best thing to do is get the best that you can get. Ask questions. Where did the topsoil, if you're going for topsoil, where did the topsoil come from? What's in it? Maybe they have soil tests, and if they're a reputable company, they should have some soil tests in it. The yellow bag, for example, does. You know that one that you can buy in those big square...
like a bale almost.
The bale, yeah. They have soil tests. They've tested their soil so that you know what you're getting. And I've actually used that, and things grow very well in it, almost too well. And they didn't have any weed seeds. But that's the other myth. You think that if you think you're going to get a topsoil without any weed seeds, it's almost next to impossible to get something without weed seeds. So just realize that even if it's the top quality, there might be a few weed seeds, and so don't be too disappointed, because it's next to impossible to get rid of all of them.
You're sharing with tremendous authority. I mean, you have 3 decades of gardening experience, but I'd like to take you back, Cristina, to a time when you were perhaps just starting out. Can you share with us maybe a humorous story where you had a catastrophic failure in your garden, or you did something so wrong you look back at it and smile?
Oh, yes. I remember I was 7 years old, and this is when I first started gardening. And I asked my mom, could I have a piece of land so I can grow something? So she gave me this really rocky, sandy soil right on top of this rock. And I was very fortunate. I actually grew beans in it. And it did very well because, as you know, beans work. Well, my mom saw this and she thought, I could use that land for something I want to grow. So she traded me for another piece of land under a peach tree that had a cedar fence around, bushes around it. Now, at that time, I didn't realize that the dense shade and the heavy and all the roots would cause nothing to grow. So I tried everything and nothing grew. So I learned that soil, as well as shade, as well as the type of plants growing next to you, are very important. And I learned that really early on.
Fantastic. Growing in a dead zone under the umbrella.
Exactly. And I've actually seen this a couple of years ago. I was going through a garden tour, and someone very proudly showed me that they started a new vegetable garden under the shade of their trees. And I thought, this brings back memories. And I didn't have the heart to tell her in front of all the people that she chose the wrong spot.
I guess that's the experience, right? Learning what grows next to what, learning about seasons and zones. And in the old days, you had to go to either a library and rent the book or study under somebody who was experienced. Now with the internet, there's so many resources.
I love the internet. And in fact, I did a little search yesterday and found something that can take you from A to Z without any problem. It covers everything. One of my garden writer friends wrote a wonderful collection of online gardening tools for the beginner gardener. And it's on Mother News Network. And let's see, it says what you need is, it's called 5 Handy Online Tools for Gardeners. So if you put that in Google and look up Ramon Gonzalez, or I think 15 handy online tools for gardeners, and Mother Nature Network should get it up. And it's Ramon Gonzalez that wrote it. And you might know him as Mr. Brown Thumb on Twitter. And he put together 15 fantastic tools that takes you from finding your zone to to laying out your garden and how far you should plant them apart and everything else. It's a fantastic website because it has everything together. So I didn't have to choose two. I could choose one website that had 15 other places that you can go to.
Fantastic. I'll put a link in the show notes, folks. If you're driving, please keep both hands on the wheel. I'll put a link and you can just go there from the web. Cristina, I had the other day on the show Susan Cohen. She's a big designer from New Jersey. And she says a lot of gardeners have been living in zonal denial the last couple of winters because they just had an absolutely killing winter. What did you, we had the same winter here. We were only a couple hours apart. What was your spring like for your garden?
I had everything came through, but I tend to choose things that do well to zone 3, even though I live in zone 5. So everything came through. The worst hit were my trees from the ice storm because I lost one tree because it got just covered with ice and then it snapped during the ice storm. And it wasn't because it got too cold. It just was just too much ice on it and it snapped it.
Yeah, for those of you on the global listeners, Toronto got hit with one of the wickedest ice storms in history the week of Christmas Eve this year. 2 million people without hydro. Some of them, 500,000 of them, for almost a week. So it was quite the winter. So in terms of wisdom or advice for neophyte gardeners, picking the right backyard plants depending on zone is important.
Absolutely. And if you're doing container gardening, if you want to grow a shrub or a perennial on your balcony or on your patio, the best thing to do is get a large container. Insulate the inside of your container with at least an inch of insulator, or you can get that silver insulation that's supposed to be for houses, and you can tape it on the inside, fill it with soil, and because the roots are outside rather than in ground, you need to get plants that are at least 2 zones colder than you are. So if you live in zone 5, you want to get something that can that's hardy to zone 2, because roots are less hardy than shoots.
Wow.
And that'll save you tons of tears.
You just blew a whole bunch of gardeners' minds with the insulation, because they don't sell pots really that are insulated. It's now a dollar store item. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
I just go to the box store and get some styrofoam if it's square, because then you can cut it easily. Or if it's round, those are the harder ones. That's where I get the flexible silver. It's a home insulation, and then you just put it around it, and it really everything comes through.
I'd like to change gears on you a bit, Cristina, and talk a little bit about the passion. I tell my friends that gardening is a lot more than just growing tomatoes and lettuce or flowers. There is a spiritual component or a health component. Can you talk a little bit about what you love most about gardening?
I thought about it, and the growing. I think when I plant seeds and I start to see them growing, springtime when I start to see the shoots coming through the ground, the flowers when they first start to form and start to open, that's what really that wows me, that keeps me hooked.
Mm-hmm. And your life has changed how? I know you've been gardening most of your adult life and since you were a child. How has your life changed because of gardening?
It's hard to tell because it's always been part of my life. But I don't have a before or after, like some people do, and that makes it easy to define exactly what it is that's changed. But I would say that just because gardening has that aspect to it, that you are more grounded. I'm probably more grounded if I didn't garden. I'm more aware of the seasons because I'm out there gardening regardless of the seasons. I'm more aware of what's going on with the weather, with nature. You just feel more connected.
Brilliant. For those of you who really like visual treats and like reading, especially, the magic of soil and the gardening technical aspects, Cristina's blog is brilliant. Head over to www.therealgardener.com. Make sure you also connect with her on social media on Twitter at Cristina Gardens, CRISTINAGARDENS. Cristina, you've been gardening for 3 decades. You could pretty much grow anything you wanted now, but this season, can you describe to our listeners, what's your garden like this year?
Oh, well, when I first started, I had a big hole because one of my trees had snapped. And so everything looked out of balance. And I thought, well, what can I do here? It seems like I have a really sunny west-facing garden, which faces another house. So I needed the privacy. But 2 of my trees have disappeared now. One was due to the ice storm last year at Christmas, and the year before, I must have picked a tree that had a disease because it succumbed to disease. So I lost 2 out of my 3 trees. After getting over my disappointment, I thought, well, what can I do here? I think I have to go with the flow. It seems like nature's telling me to keep it sunny. So I thought, what can I do to keep it sunny? And I started reading a lot about Keyhole Gardens. I don't know if you've heard about them, Dave.
Pretend I haven't. Share with me that.
Oh, I know you have. Anyways, there's something that have developed in Africa and they used a lot in Texas, and it's a layered garden that has a compost in the middle that allows it not only to be very rich in nutrients, but it also stays moist longer, which is very good for hot climates. Now, of course, we live in Canada. And it's not that hot, despite all our complaints about it. It's not that dry either. So I decided to build a keyhole garden without the compost in the middle, because I don't think we have the heat and that would allow the compost to decay fast enough. So it would just be sitting there for a while because it doesn't decompose as fast as it does in hot, dry heat as it does in Africa and Texas. So basically, it's you'll love this. It's called a hugelkultur garden. It's one of those log gardens because I took the tree that had it snapped, cut it into logs, and put it at the bottom of this raised bed, which I made out of wire and a Gambian basket, if you know what I mean, and filled it with rocks. And then at the bottom, I put the logs, and then I started layering it with a brown layer, a green layer, a brown layer, green layer, and finally some organic potting soil at the top so that I could grow vegetables in it. So instead of working against keep on trying to grow trees where it seemed like I think nature was telling me, don't grow trees, I decided to use the sunny location and put in a raised bed and tried a new technique that's been out there, and I've always wanted to try it, and it's growing very well.
Cristina, that's fantastic. Everyone's listening. Their imagination just got fired up.
Sorry. I interrupted you.
Everyone who's listening, their imagination just got fired up. I've never heard of a Zambian basket. It's a Gambian.
Gambian,
okay.
Gambian, Gambon. It's actually used a lot in. I could have just done just rocks on top of each other, or some bricks on top of each other. The Gambian baskets are actually used for rivers and to keep the riverbanks together instead of allowing it to erode. They're really strong wire that you fill up with rocks so it stops things from eroding. And on the inside, I used landscape fabric so that the soil wouldn't come out through the rocks.
And the Keyhole Garden idea, brilliant. There's a drought, penalties for watering now in California and parts of Arizona.
So it'd be very useful there.
I was just talking with Chad Huspeth from Phoenix. He's president of Endless Food Systems, and it was 114 Fahrenheit, which is, 38, 39 Celsius.
Ridiculous temperatures.
They actually have to cover up to 70%, almost like a cheesecloth roof for a lot of their raised beds.
Yeah, because things would start to burn.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, I guess that's man's innovation, is being able to grow food wherever they live, wherever they find themselves.
Exactly. I love that.
Our half hour is rapidly racing away, but we're at the part of the show now, my favorite part. It's called 5 Quick Questions, and you get to drop pearls of wisdom to our listeners. Are you ready to play?
Okay.
Fantastic. Question number 1. What do you think stops most people from getting into gardening?
Thinking that they can't do it.
And how do they overcome that?
Just do it. I know. I've been on Twitter too long.
No such thing.
144 characters or less.
Practice growing weeds your first year. I know I did. Question number 2. Now, this is on 30 years of gardening. What is the best gardening advice that you've ever received?
Really? It's just do it. That's the best advice I've ever received. And it applies to everything. I know it's a Nike commercial, but it also goes back to that really lovely quote from Yoda. Do or not do. Don't try. You do or you don't do.
You said something profound during the call, is you never had a before and after. You've been gardening most of your life. That childlike quality, kids are fearless. They'll try anything.
Yeah. I have my injuries to prove it too.
Oh, yeah. Question number 3. If you had just 2 websites to share with a beginning gardener, what would those websites be?
I think I mentioned this before. I'm going to only say one website. I'd say go to Mother Nature's Network and look up the 15 handy online tools for gardeners. And it's for beginners, and that should get you started as a beginner.
And that was Ramon Gonzalez?
Yes, sir. Mr. Brown Thumb.
Mr. Brown Thumb. Hey, I follow him on Twitter.
He's hilarious.
That's what I hear. I mean, it's hard to convey a lot of comedy in 140 characters, but he does it well.
He does.
Now, I'm in my 3rd season as a serious, enthusiastic hobby gardener. My wife's in year 15. As a beginner, I consider myself a beginner. What's the best gardening book that I should read this year?
It's like asking, what's your favorite flower? It's really tough for me because there's so many different gardening books, and then there's so many, and it depends on what you're interested in, because it's become so very specialized. It depends on what you are interested in. But because I'm from soils, and I focus on soils, I'll tell you one of the best books that have come out this year on soil, and it's a chap from Guelph, actually. His name is Keith Reed, and he wrote Improving Your Soil. It's a practical guide to soil management for the serious home gardener, and it really covers in very simple language how to improve your soil, and it's very accessible.
You mentioned Guelph. I'm going to the University of Guelph this fall to do the Master Gardener course.
Very nice.
I don't know if it's been... For those of you out there afraid of stuff, man, I haven't, thought about studying or going to school in 20 years. I'm a proud college dropout. And me and my wife are going back to college to get our Master Gardener certificate.
You'll love this. It's fun, and they don't make it too hard. They really do encourage you to The Master Gardeners courses are really wonderful. I did mine online through Dalhousie, and I really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. My buddy's going to go to the same university. This is totally unrelated, and he's doing aquaponics.
Oh, nice. That is becoming really hot right now, actually.
He's got a backyard full of fish, and like his tomatoes, like they're monsters.
Is he watering his tomatoes with the water from the fish?
Yeah, he's got the science going, the beds, and it's fascinating. I think aquaponics is cutting-edge 21st century stuff. I mean, this can really affect the planet.
I think so. Actually, I had someone come in and talk about it on Ground Chat. And do you know Handy Helen?
I do know Handy Helen.
She came on to Ground Chat and covered aquaponics because she went on a tour in a greenhouse about it, and then that does this, and she's also thinking of starting her own greenhouse, aquaponics greenhouse.
Brilliant.
I'd say the only thing that's holding people back there, it's actually the cost, because there's a lot of equipment and a lot of overhead to get it started.
I look at aquaponics like golf. Nobody ever wakes up and says, I'm going to go spend $2,000 on golf clubs. It's always a friend that kind of gets them into golf, and you're always terrible at it in the beginning, and then it just grows on you.
You're so funny.
I think aquaponics is this, hey, I'm going to grow fish. It's a fish-powered garden. Oh, we've completely gone off my notes here. Question number 5.
Okay.
Look into your crystal ball. What's the number one thing that every gardener should attempt to grow next season?
I'm going to be funny here. Something.
We haven't had that as an answer yet on the show. That's fantastic.
I would say because I wouldn't dream of telling someone else what they should and shouldn't plant, because everyone has their own likes and dislikes. And really, gardening is all about following your own passion, not somebody else's. So whatever your passion is, plant it.
Oh, I love that. Fantastic. The half hour just flies, but for those of you listening, make sure you head over to Christina's blog at www.therealgardener.com. Please share her content on social media. You can join the chat at Cristina Gardens, and make sure you participate in the hashtag Ground Chat every Friday at 2. Do you want to take 60 seconds and talk about Ground Chat?
Sure. It got started as a ways of me giving back to the community. I'd looked through all the different chats, and I saw that the one thing they didn't really talk much about was soil. And I felt that soil, being the foundation of gardening, should be something that should have more focus on. That's how I got started with Ground Chat, basically as a way to communicate with other people of the importance of soil with gardeners. And it just grew. It started off with a couple of people turning up, and now the reach is I think the biggest number was about 2 million people.
Good googly moogly. That's a lot of gardeners.
Well, some of the other chats are bigger. Not much. The one that's been around longer, the longest ones, the Garden Chat, that reaches 5 million people.
Ground Chat is every Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. You can lurk and you can participate. It's hashtag Ground Chat. I got to get in on that. That sounds fun. I'm going to learn a ton.
Well, this week we have Eric Vingy from Natural Planet, and he's going to be talking about natural fertilizers and how to use them properly. Because many people think it's natural and then they overdo it and add too much.
Fantastic wisdom. I hope you enjoyed this show, folks. I learned a ton. I took a pile of notes. Christina, I'm actually going to give you the last word. Do you have a pearl of wisdom or a note of encouragement for our listeners?
Well, gardening will keep you sane most of the time. I don't know if that's a pearl of wisdom.
I think we can use that. That's fantastic. Folks, this has been another edition of Back to My Garden. I'm Dave Ledoux, your host. Please join us again for an upcoming show. Please share Christina's information on Twitter and participate this Friday at #GroundChat. Thanks for listening and have a great week, everybody. Happy gardening.